Inviting Mr. Rishi Kumar, Vice President, IORA Ecological Solutions, to please join us. And we will shortly be joined by Dr. Swati Verma, who apparently is on her way and will be joining us shortly. So I hand it over to the esteemed chair and the moderator to take the session forward.
Can you hear me? Once again, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, speakers, to be there. Mr. Pankaj, I think he will be the moderator. So, the topic is basically the capacity building. Capacity building, I think it's a very, very important and very crucial aspect of the development. And when we talk about the development, certainly the developing the infrastructure, developing the kind of the projects which has the sustainability, developing the systems in the water sector which has the zero kind of the discharge, energy, health, as well as in environment. You take any kind of the sector, I think the capacity building plays a very, very crucial role. When we talk about the capacity building, it's a organizational structures which needs to be created in such a way that it is not dependent on one individual, it is not dependent on one person, it is not dependent on one skill, it is not dependent on one technique. And with that, it will be very, very appropriate if the systems within the departments, systems within the projects, systems within the organization, they are created. And for that, this capacity building of the officials concerned, of the experts, of the bureaucrats, of the leaders, it is very, very necessary. And for that, it is considered very necessary that the appropriate training, appropriate new inputs, appropriate new models on the technology, financing, administration, everything they are taken into consideration, and based on that the detailed capacity building programs are prepared. Let me also tell that being the person from the infrastructure sector in the development, whenever any projects we have taken up with the government of India or any state governments, the capacity building has always been the very key component in all the projects. So what we have been doing it, that whatever the successful models are there and how they have achieved, what are the key elements, normally the literature on those are prepared, and then they are kept ready for training to the people in the similar kind of sector elsewhere, in not only in that organization but in other organization also. And especially in the international agencies, when these big assignments, big projects are taken up, normally they arrange the site visits and interactions with the success projects within the country. And also not only within the country but elsewhere in the world, in other countries also. So this has been the normally the practice, and normally what the trend has been that the senior people which are very senior, which are normally at the verge of retirement, they wants to go to attend those trainings in the other countries, and which normally being the development partner, normally we discourage that kind of things, because these capacity building the programs, they are made for the people who are upcoming, who has to work for a longer time. So the capacity building normally it is considered very, very important. And with that, I will request now Mr. Pankaj Sharma to kindly start your the inputs, and you can elaborate further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Singh, for setting the context. And uh, with that, I think I can turn to the entire panelists, and you can go one by one, take like 3-4 minutes to speak about it, about your experiences. So the question could be that, how can ESG shift from being a compliance obligation to becoming a core driver of industrial competitiveness and long-term value creation? And what are you doing in your organizations to do this?
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pankaj, and namaskar to all respected delegates. The question is how ESG can drive. Yesterday I was listening to Mr. Pankaj that compliance and reporting is not enough. That's correct. It should be put in the strategic framework of the companies or organizations. Since I am from aviation, I will give you the generic ideas how the system or regulatory compliances are done, because I have been doing implementation of the civil aviation requirements in my organizations. So, first of all, we should have a commitment. ESG, for ESG implementation, we should have a commitment and culture. We should develop this culture to each and every industries. If we talk about the commitment is not just saying we will do it. Commitment comes with the responsibility and accountability of the organization management or organization heads. In aviation, many years back we started safety management system, because aviation is more concerned with the safety. So initially it was in the concept forms, and slowly it has gone to the implementation forms. So initially it was more of the reactive. So whatever the problems we have faced with the environment or with the water or with any factor affecting to our health, our humanities. So initially it might have been reactive, but now we have got a lot of informations. We move towards the proactive and predictive. And similar things we have implemented in our safety management system also. So I will tell you some of my experience that we have faced few years, maybe 10 years back, where there are water shortage in my society. So we took some initiative to control it. And moreover, to controlling it requires a lot of campaign to the people. We have to connect to the people. You have to understand their problems and educate them. Unless we connect the people, it is very difficult. It is very difficult to control such type of wastage. So in our system, since I am with the quality compliance and monitoring system, what we do, if any problems comes, we do the root cause analysis. We try to reach to the conclusion why this problem has come. So in the root cause analysis, we use 5 why. If suppose this file is just simple example, if some file is lying here, some peon has kept in my table, so I have to integrate with the why it is there. So we may come to the conclusion he may not be knowing. So why is not knowing? So he has not been told to where it should be kept. So if we interrogate such type things, you will find that it is not the problem of the person, it is problem in the system. System doesn't say that a fourth class employee should be given a proper training. So sir was very rightly saying it should not be individual centric. It should be any project, any policy should be system driven. If a person who is driving as a leadership at a certain project, like we are talking about the ESG in general, if somebody is doing that water treatment plant trying to establish in their factory, if he is not there, it should not be like that. If the person is not there, the system should not work. The project should go on. So what I will say that let us focus on the establishing the system rather than it is an individual centric projects. So with this, I will, if any further questions comes, or shall I go further? Okay.
So welcome Swati ji to the panel. And as we are progressing from here, you missed the opening remark of the chair, but the question that was posed is that how do we, how can the ESG shift from being a compliance obligation to being a competitive advantage in various companies? So that's what we are discussing right now. If you have any thoughts on that, we'd like to hear that.
Minutes. Okay. So basically, I come from ISID. We work on ESG related disclosures by companies. We have recently done a study on 100 largest manufacturing companies taken from BSE listed BSE list. So what we found was that in terms of quantitative metrics, we found, I will be sharing a bit on that and then move on to the ESG collaboration issues. So what we found was that in terms of like, whenever it came to quantitative metrics, some firms are doing, some firms are not giving. You then depend on the assurance whether you rely on those metrics or not. But when it comes to qualitative part, a lot of issues are there, like technology innovation, all these GHG emission, whatever projects companies have taken, whether they have done any environment impact assessment. So all these aspects are very much like lying in the gray zone. You don't know what it is, you don't know. Companies are still trying to, figure out and actually trying to meet the compliance requirements. But when I actually I thought of the ESG collaboration issue, which was the main theme for this session. I found that there are two issues which would be very important. First is for any policy related, any meaningful path to attain ESG goals, you need very authentic data. That is the first step. So for if I take the BRSR related disclosure part, the main format which large firms are expected to follow, even the light version for smaller MSMEs is also based on that. The KPIs are also for value chain assessments, they are also based on that. So the entire data structure has to be very much authentic and firm, and that is where I would make two important statements, which is that for BRSR, very clear issues lie in coverage and the transparency issues. If you are able to address these issues very effectively, then only the ESG collaborations would make any, much meaning. So that is one point I would raise here. And also I found that the BRSR, once you make that strong and more credible, a lot of the ESG collaboration issues actually address the defects or the questions which BRSR actually is facing, which is transparency and the coverage issues. So once you have collaborations, once you have effective collaborations at vertical or horizontal, those ESG ecosystems, then you end up addressing these issues in as best effective ways as possible. So uh, like you can, it anyways involves pooling of knowledge, aligning standards, sharing data, technology related innovations, whether it's process or product based. And you may use different partnership models, but ultimately it's the data set which is most important. That will be driving your knowledge and understanding. And I will also say, I will also add one last point, which is that since my data set, which I'm not sure if I'll get time to show the data sets, but I understand, my understanding is that companies are evolving on the ESG path. So this is the right time to pitch in the idea of collaboration, because some large companies, even they are like in nascent stage, depending on the quantitative metrics you talk about, depending on the indicator which you talk about. So some are building up resources, trying to, measure those things, so measure those actual indicators. So I think this is the right time. So to pitch in and start with our think on collaboration issues.
Mr. Rishi, please, on the same question of how ESG can drive uh,
Hello.
competitiveness as compared to just being a compliance disclosure.
Okay, so I would like to tell you a bit about which sphere I work on, what domain I work on. So I work in IORA Ecological Solutions, and we work mainly in the NBS sector, nature-based solution sector. And here we work on carbon credits. So in the earlier discussion, like earlier panel discussion, there was a reference of carbon credits in Meghalaya. So we are working with the Meghalaya government, MBDA particularly, where we have been able to generate the carbon credit for Meghalaya. It's a very good price. So this is the work, like carbon credit is one of the areas we work on. But it's beyond that, we are also working on value chains. So when we talk about climate, we work on climate vulnerability, but also looking at the emissions and assessment of that. And biodiversity is one of the major focus that we have. So we work on biodiversity assessments for different companies on various aspects, but basically to look at that the company doesn't have a impact on biodiversity. So we majorly work on that, and a new concept has also emerged about biodiversity credits. So these are the areas we work on. So if you look at the ESG, these are all the areas are very central to ESG, the environmental part of ESG. And I think in that sense, I can talk a bit about how ESG can come out from just being something to be filled into, or it can become a driver of industry, like technology, or even a way that industry can achieve some of these targets. So, so when we talk about ESG reporting, many companies are looking at ESG reporting as filling up some of the matrices, which Swati ji also talked about. But if we want to look at like a horizon where we achieve some of the major targets or global level issues that we want to target, then we have to look at these ESGs as the matrices of mainly looking at that what are the risks are there and how we can like mitigate these risks. So there are risks related to climate. So companies can have various climate-related risks that can be on their operation, on their logistics, on their assets that they are having, and how climate can lead to like a coastal area flooding can lead to their asset going into waste or something like that. And then there are like emissions also. So if new regulation coming in, some regulation coming which wants industry to abide by regulation. If it doesn't abide by, then they have to pay a hefty price. So even carbon, Indian carbon trading system, carbon credit trading system has also come in, which pushes that boundary that you have to achieve this target. And then what is also one, I think it has been discussed quite a bit, so I don't want to discuss it more, but mainly industries which are water intensive. So they have to look at where the water stress is there, and how can they avoid that stress. Like I'm working in a company which has availability of a lot of water, but what happens if a climate stress comes up? So they have to look at the risk of climate stress. And when we talk about a lot of industries which are invested in natural capital, like they take their company drives from the natural capital in some ways. Like if we talk about pharma companies, a lot of their new innovations come from the like forest and biodiversity. And similarly, a number of companies like tourism is mainly focused on areas which have some beauty, natural beauty and all. So a lot of these industries are focused on this, and then there are risks related to that, like biodiversity is very much in threat now, and ecosystem services which is derived from that will lead to a lot of issues, and a lot of industry will lose their market, lose their resources from there. And then we can also look at like there is an innovation being driven by ESG, because now you have to report to something and achieve something. Then there is a drive that, okay, if I want to reduce my emission, what can be the technologies I can build in? Like, can I go into carbon capture if my systems are not so much amenable to reduction in carbon intensity? So can I go to a carbon capture methodology? And that's an innovation that you brings in. So that there are different ways, and there are a lot of advantages these companies also would have for going into new areas. Like Europe has come up with CBAM, so carbon border adjustment mechanism. So if a company wants to trade in Europe, they have to like comply by some of the regulations there. So if the companies are already complying to a lot of regulations and they have a very high ESG matrices, then they are like there are a lot of opportunities for them to go into. Like there are new kind of markets, and even the if you look at the finances, like a lot of banks and financial institutions are very open to investing in companies who are like ESG compliant and moving towards more than compliance. They are moving towards solution in some ways. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Rishi ji. Mr. Singh, any last comments on this particular question before I move to the last question? On the, like how ESG can drive competitiveness and not just being a disclosure statement.
Say ESG, again, on this ESG, basically again, achieving this zero kind of the emissions from whether water, energy or environment, it is very, very important. And for achieving that, I think the systems has to be in place, whether it's the regulations, whether it's a compliances or any other best practices. Thus, documentation is must. Systems are must. And with these can also be supported with the kind of the best examples available elsewhere in any of the place. And while the training of the people, or while the sharing of the knowledge is done with the other partners, at that time I think it would be better if these are supported with the kind of the success examples. And by doing so, I think this sustainability, environment sustainability and governance can be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I'll move to the second and the last question for this session is, so we have talked a little bit about that. I think we encouraged Swati ji talked about it, Ved talked about it, and Rishi ji also talked about it. But if I have to take this forward, how do these cross-sector collaborations play in building resilient and inclusive industrial ecosystems, and how can they unlock new markets, attract finance? You talked a little bit about financing. And so how do these collaborations become very important in any ecosystem to be competitive as well as draw finance and then also apply the circular economy principles?
Thank you, Pankaj. It's very well questions. If you see that an organization like MROs, they are having different type of waste and they want to dispose of. So it may be a small amount of waste which needs a approved process to be disposed of. To do those, to follow those process, there may be a requirement of investment. If I know some other bigger companies, like some oil companies, we got some fuel wastage or oil wastage with us, and we find that if some bigger company, oil companies, are already having setup of such type of things, so we can always collaborate with them. This will reduce my cost and it is economical for the other company who is already having the bigger establishment. So this way, cooperating with the one and other companies, we can manage this waste management, and over and above, everybody, they don't have a research and development team with their companies. So in that case, if some research is going on somewhere else, that technology can be adopted, or someone is doing something good in the other field, like we call that water treatment or waste management. If those people can collaborate with the other, then it will be wonderful idea. It will, collective effort will bring the results in the our community. I will tell you a small example. We were doing the waste management in our, when I was in Mumbai, we were doing the waste management in our own society. And it was costing something. We had shredder, we had pits, compost pit. Later on, it has become compulsory. Initially, we started our own. Later on, it became compulsory by the authorities. So we moved forward to buying some compost machine. That is another costly thing. In between, somebody is established the complex of this compost, decomposting of the waste. So they offered us, we will collect your waste, we'll do decomposting in our compound, and they were not collecting from our society, they were collecting from so many others. So it was become much more economical for us also, and we were wasting our manpower. So somebody is coming with these ideas and having a better establishment. It is more economical for the smaller organization and profitable for the bigger organization. So that way, I will say that it is good suggestions, and to have a collaboration with each other. And my topic, one more interesting topic I picked up. I have time. It is may come from my heart. We know that Chit Jal Pavak Gagan Samira, Panch Tattva Mil Bane Sarira. So there are two elements which is more important for life is water and air. Clean air. Air means clean air, where we get good oxygen. So since I am in aviation, so I will talk on that pollution spread by the emission of the engine. We was talking about the emission, which is polluting the air. Majority of the pollution from aviation is from the fuel burn, and that carbon dioxide and nitrogen oxide is coming out of this. So with the technology advancement, it has been reduced. I will say that engine is designed with the high bypass ratio, It reduces high bypass ratio, it reduces the noise also. So it is noise is another pollution. This is not enough. We have to go for sustainable alternate fuel. Sustainable aviation fuel, which is a biofuel, and it has been already developed, and Indian Oil Company is working on this. Production is already started. So one of the aircraft has been flown also with this biofuel from Dehradun to Delhi. So with that, ICAO targets this carbon reduction by 2050 to reach to zero. So this one part is the air and another is the water. A lot of work is going on. Yesterday I was here in the evening, and people are working tremendously on this issue of the water. Clean water, I think 25% crisis is there. Whole of the maybe whole of the world, 25%, and we know the crisis is there. It is that's what I am talking about, the proactive and predictive measures. So we know that this crisis is there. We have got a lot of people are working. There are the means of rainwater harvesting, water treatments, recirculation of the water after treating it, wastewater. So I will say only that I think maybe 10 years back at 11 years ago, one French person met me, and he was saying that you have got plenty of sun and plenty of rainwater. So why you are not processing this? So from those days, solar system has come to a very comfortable level. I think we are heading ahead to the target. So we should focus on this, and with the collective efforts, I think we'll reach to the green energy efficiency at the very high level in coming future. So I wish all the best to Pankaj. Is I think very wholeheartedly involved with the water and solar both. So
Thank you, Vedji. And those were great examples of collaboration, especially when you talked about waste management. You talked about how the oil companies are getting together to create this biofuel and so on. So it's great examples of and how it impacts all of us. Swati ji, on the same question, like to hear your thoughts.
Hello? 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 Hello?
hello, hello.
Hello? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the same question on alliance. Alliance would definitely mean once you go ahead with any kind of cross-sectoral alliance, you start with the point of building trust. So once that question comes in, you actually end up working together towards managing with resource limitations, managing risks, applying all kinds of innovation and technology for better tools, smarter processes, cost-saving techniques. So technology has a very crucial role in any kind of cross-sectoral alliance. And companies can align on standards, transparency, improvement, shared reporting frameworks, etc. And what I see in the case of this cross-sectoral partnership, basically the entire system is now looking towards finding innovative solutions. Whether you cross-sectoral, one issue is that the industry could be, different. You are collaborating on a particular issue. Could be technology, could be finance, could be those aspects. So even then, innovative solutions could be found. And once you start sharing with a certain level of trust, you end up sharing technology. You feel comfortable sharing technology within that chain or within your partners, supply partners, better sourcing, and improved sourcing and improved supply strategy would eventually come in. You end up sharing information. That is the most important point here. So ultimately, I see that any model you follow, whether it's cross-sectoral, whether it's industry consortia, whether it's a PPP model, all would lead to better innovative solutions, and you will end up actually working towards these goals with your best resources possible, minimizing all costs. So ultimately, in all the setup, technology would be very key, and this is how I see them shaping up.
So when we talk about the challenges we are facing, these are systematic challenges which one organization cannot like cover it or mitigate it. So there is a need to have a collaborative setup where different kind of organizations would be needed. So if I talk about one of our projects, which is MechCare, we are working in Meghalaya on carbon credit and community ownership of this. So there the setup, mainly the policy has been set up by the state government. The agroforestry policy and whatever is requirement in a project is set up by the state government. And then there are international donor are there which are financing it. Then the industry, the NBS is being implemented through a company which looks at like how carbon mitigation can happen. They prepare a project on that. So that is the way there is a partnership of communities. Communities are involved in implementing the project on ground. So I think there's a whole gamut of different type of actors here, from policy to communities to everything. So all this synergy is needed to implement any project and to go towards environmental mitigation of anything, or even to achieve the ESG. So that's all.
Thank you very much, Rishi ji. Some final words from our chair, Mr. Singh, on this topic.
So I think the collaboration, coordination are very, 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 very important for being successful in achieving the overall objective. Before we close, I also want to share one example basically of the best practices or the collaboration. I took the team from one of the prominent organization from India to the Japan, and I was basically on one of the train, and you may be knowing that the accidents rate of the trains in Japan are very, very minimal. Like for the decades together, there hardly any kind of this thing. So I just wanted to know that what is the secret of this, and why they are teaching their best practices to the other people who are coming from the other countries. And I happens to get a chance to go with the pilot. Very strange things I saw. The pilot is alone, and he is speaking. Of course, he was speaking in Japanese. He is speaking something. Then he is moving his hands also, and after that he is reaffirming those things. So later on I asked, what is this? So he said that when I start, I just see that whether nobody is there in front of the train. Yes, nobody is there. Whether I ask the ground level person that he is showing the green signal to me. Yes, I saw it, and yes, it's showing. So this is the kind of the practice, and by doing so, it's not only his mind, but his mouth, his ears, everything he is keeping it open. And this is exactly making the system foolproof from any kind of the accidents. And this they want to teach it not only to these agencies, but they want to give this message to the world that how the best practices can be developed and spread, so that the overall achievement of the secured world could be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. So in conclusion, I think few things stand out. One, obviously, the collaboration and coordination is very important in this sector, without which we will not be able to achieve what we are set out to achieve. It will just remain as a statement on ESG. And second is that how do we ensure that everything becomes process dependent rather than individual dependent, and the processes are inherent in the muscle memory rather than so reaffirming it again and again and ensuring that everyone understands that. Thank you so much, my panel, for your thoughts, and with this we'll conclude this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Session Chair. Thank you to the moderator, and our sincere thanks to all the esteemed participants and speakers of this session. To do the honors of presenting a memento to all the esteemed speakers as well as the Session Chair and moderator, may I request Dr. Arvind Kumar to please join us on stage. We thank our esteemed speaker, Mr. Ved Prakash Prajapati, Executive Director, AI Engineering Services. Our thanks to Mr. Rishi Kumar, Vice President, IORA Ecological Solutions. Our sincere thanks to Dr. Swati Verma, Assistant Professor, ISID. And once again, we express our thanks to the esteemed moderator, Mr. Pankaj Sharma. Our thanks to the session chair, Shri MP Singh. Request you all to please join us for a photo op. With that, we now take a break for lunch.